To me, it's a special record because it's very, very pure, just you and the clock. There is no second place in an hour record. You either do it or you fail.
Chris Boardman is going to take the gold medal to become the 4,000-metre Olympic champion, and he does just that.
This futuristic bike is already a part of sporting history, and the man who rode it there is about to follow suit, retiring as the most successful cyclist Britain has ever produced.
This is an amazing pursuit, the likes of which we may never see again. But Boardman is the leader of the Tour de France. Look at the ride by Boardman. This is going to be an unbelievable time. Chris Boardman has smashed his own world record out of sight. He is the world champion. They're calling him Superman. And will anybody ever disagree with that?
Chris Boardman could roll comfortably into retirement on the accumulated impetus of his achievements. Instead, he's decided to gamble his reputation on the very last ride of his career by trying to break a record he already holds. For more than 100 years, the world hour record has been the ultimate solo effort in cycling. No terrain or tactics to influence the outcome, just 60 minutes of suffering to try to ride further than anyone has before. Boardman has done it twice, the last time in 1996, when he set an astonishing mark of nearly 56.5 kilometres. No one since has dared attempt it, and now it's unlikely anyone ever will, because cycling's world governing body, the UCI, have changed the rules, banning stretched-out riding positions and super-light one-piece bikes in favour of a return to the more traditional geometry of triangular frames and hunched riders.
It created a dilemma. You can't keep a record when the next person who comes along can't have the same advantages that I have. But you can't throw the record out either, because it was set within good faith with the rules that you laid down at the time. So we said, okay, how about establishing a new record, the athlete's hour record? And they thought it was a great idea, because these guys have painted themselves into a corner, and we'll ride a bike that looks like Eddie Merckx's. Normal handlebars, normal wheels, round tubes, no aero helmets, and a guy crouched down. Merckx was the last person that looked like that.
Eddie Merckx was the greatest cyclist of all time, and the last one to tackle the hour record before technology took over.
Je pense qu'on peut presque comparer le record de l'heure avec aucune autre épreuve parce que c'est pas un contre-la-montre, c'est pas une poursuite, c'est vraiment une heure contre soi-même où il faut donner le meilleur de soi-même. Je pense que ma carrière n'aurait pas été complète si je ne me serais pas attaqué au record de l'heure.
In 1972, Merckx powered through the thin air of Mexico to reach 49 kilometres, 431 metres, a mark which was untouchable for more than a decade until aerodynamics finally overtook it. Boardman's last ride will be a piece of time travel, pitting himself against a legend and trying to better a 28-year-old record on comparable equipment.
This record of all records is one that shouldn't be affected by technology. It should be about athletes and should be something that stays the same over decades. You'll be able to compare a record that was set in 1972 with a record that will be set in 2030 because the rules are the same for everybody.
Before going public with the idea, Chris and his coach Peter Keane stage a testing session to check that he hasn't set himself an impossible task. Using a computer linked to the bike pedals, they can measure how different pieces of equipment affect his ability to ride at the sort of pace he'll need to beat Merckx's record. Whatever combination of frame, wheels and headgear Boardman agrees with the UCI will set the standard for anyone who attacks the record in the future.
Okay, Chris. See some action.
So what's the combination that we would like to look at first, and what's the format that we're going to use?
I'd like to get up on this. We will do 3 minutes at 50 k/h. Come straight in, look at the data. If it looks reasonable, get up and do 3 minutes again at 50 k/h. Then we'll go into the other helmet for one, and then change the wheels.
I reckon that you're not going to be able to tell the difference between this thing and this thing. And the only one that's actually worth doing is the full polystyrene one versus these two.
Looks quite aero, doesn't it? He's got such a long body. Let's go. 29.3. 35 pace.
Peter Keen's style is not for everybody. He tends to talk in numbers and power and pulse and quantifies things in a very scientific way. But that's something that's given me passion for what I do, because I believe in it completely. I know exactly why I'm going out training. I know exactly what it is that I'm trying to achieve.
Do it again.
He'll just instinctively know where my limits are and set that workload right on the limit, but not over it.
Up a bit.
I think it's like a family relationship where you don't necessarily like each other all of the time, but you have a certain bond between you that can't be denied.
Last 4, come on. 3, come on, 2. Okay, Chris, the other helmet. Let's go. About 5 minutes now, so change wheels. I'm going to have to go and do my day job, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I quite understand.
Useful session, though?
Yeah, it was. I think it gives us
Good
the
start.
primary answer, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Really.
The primary answer is followed by the point of no return, a public announcement that Boardman will go for the record in October during the World Track Championships at Manchester's Velodrome.
I think to this point, the price that I've paid to be a professional cyclist, more precisely the price that myself and my family has paid, has been worth it. I think we've got a good deal.
It's just sport to me, really. It's one of those things, if the rest of your life's going great and you win in races, marvellous, but if you win in races and you've got a terrible life, then it doesn't mean anything, does it? So it's just sport.
I don't think most people realise that he works every single day of the year. Even on Christmas Day, he goes out on his bike. When Harriet was born, he dropped me off at the hospital at about, must have been about 10 o'clock at night. Went to a race the following morning, and we worked out that he was only leaving the Wirral just as she was being born, so he could have been there. But that wasn't his dedicated phase. So that was just normal. It got worse than that.
Okay, so what we have here was formerly George's bedroom, but is now hypoxic chamber. So if you look at all the windows are completely sealed up with tape. The door is completely sealed with tape and edged around the outside. There's 3 tubes coming in, which we can hardly hear now, but they're linked to generators in the workshop outside, and they pump in oxygen at a much lower level than is normally the case. Normal air content for oxygen is just under 21%, and as you can see here, this is 16%. So we're at the equivalent of 15,000 feet now. I'm not trying to compare myself with what Eddie Merckx was in his whole entity. You know, he was something that I would never be. What I hope is that I can demonstrate in this one specific discipline I'm capable on my day of being as good as the best in the world. And to be able to find a way to compare yourself with Eddie Merckx of 30 years ago is great.
Mexico est à l'altitude de 2200 mètres. L'oxygène se raréfie. La respiration devient difficile.
Je m'entraînais jusqu'à 6 fois et une demi-heure sur home trainer par jour, avec bien sûr en respirant de l'air raréfié en oxygène. Et puis pour le restant de la journée, lorsque j'étais à la maison, je respirais également de l'air raréfié en oxygène. Donc cela j'ai fait à peu près pendant 6 semaines, je pense, mais tout en faisant de la compétition en plus, parce que bon, il y avait quand même des courses à faire.
Today is the anniversary, if you like, of my first professional bike race. This was the first one I ever rode. It was the same guy who picked me up from the airport 7 years ago. He's been my soigneur masseur since the start, so it's rather symmetrical really. The only difference is now is it's a two-up as opposed to individual time trial. Did you give me the key?
Yeah, because I don't want to make my master angry on me. I have to keep you satisfied.
He's good at taking the piss. It's one of his best events. Hey Eddie. Oh, ouais, j'espère que comme ça demain. Mon première preuve professionnelle, c'est presque la dernière. And it's also my birthday today. I've spent so many birthdays on the road now. It doesn't really bother me. I have come to resent more and more the missing of the kids' birthdays. The worst thing is when they accept it as the norm, when they just assume that you're not going to be there and assume that, oh, we go and see your dad. And you're just a person in their lives, but not as close to them as you would like to be. And that's what's really started to accumulate and get to me now. Because everybody has to stop at some point, and for me, I always said at the start that I would stop when I was 32, and I'm 32 yesterday, so it's time to stop. There are other things in life with 4 children. I'm missing a lot of the growing up, so I think it's just a good time to stop.
So you want to kick off on me?
You can kick off for a change.
Yeah.
Not really bother one way or the other.
Well, I can do it.
Christopher Boardman, 2 fois vainqueur du Grand Prix d'Imerckx en individuel, recordman du monde de l'heure, associé à Jens Voigt, vainqueur cette année du Grand Prix de Cholet et du Tour de Bavière.
It's not nice to be caught by another team. It's not a pleasant experience, but if my form was perfect now, that would be a big problem for the big objectives at the end of the year, Olympics, Worlds and the Hour Record project.
Magnifique applause for Chris Boardman and Jens Voigt. Voilà, la deuxième place, c'est vos chaleureux applaudissements de l'équipe
If you have driven here today and are in a greeny blue Escort, it is an obstruction if it is not removed immediately.
No wobbling, Oscar. From the age of 13 I started this, and I was never interested in riding a bike for the social side of it. I was the take your ball home kind of kid, that if I hadn't been winning at cycling, I'd probably have done something else. I enjoyed standing out from the crowd. You know, I needed that for my own self-esteem. And I think that word is really important, need, as opposed to want. And thankfully I've laid that ghost now.
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the Jaguar GR3.
This is bite the bullet time, really. The first one we're doing. Everything's been about just training to date, and this is the first, we call it an acid test.
Chris is going to do a half-hour session at what we think is probably the limit of the pace he'll achieve on the day. I think the most important thing is it's first real test of his form and his mental approach to what he's set himself to do here. So it's a pressure day. This is it. Not sure he's going to enjoy this a lot. It's going to be very hard.
Too hard as it turns out. Chris can't take the pace for more than a few minutes and has to come in.
Is your breathing gone?
Yeah, breathing's okay. Position's harder to hold.
Bottom line, I still think that's an issue.
Well, the only way to compare it properly is to change the position and do the same thing.
Yeah, correct. So you give me a nod when you're ready and we'll just do a few laps at 51, see what we get. If it's way off and we'll abandon. You got a cramp? Are you right? Come in and have a stretch. Well, that says it's a novel position.
It's the usual day off, so.
It is, yeah. Did you have a complete day off?
Yeah.
Bad move.
Yeah.
You know.
I did go out on the trailer bike with George there, didn't I?
Don't think that counts.
Cramp isn't all Chris has to contend with.
Move up and down, please. Let Chris on, thanks.
He's competing for track time with a local veterans club.
It was our session, we booked it. And then it got unbooked,
right. Oh, well,
didn't it?
a mistake.
They want their money back. I think I might go over and give it to them. Tell them to piss off, basically. Just such a waste of time, this game. So we have to give to a higher priority. That's it. Well, we're playing now. He's not up to doing what we were going to do. I didn't call it a morning there.
Okay.
Sorry. Don't let it get you down.
Well, it does, but there's no way around that, is there?
Oh, you're close, Chris.
Yeah.
Come on, 400 watts for an hour is as good as it's ever going to get. And you're close.
I'll shower up and shoot then.
The motivation for me now is to just like try and stick with it, because this is the last thing you're ever going to be doing, and I think I'm just going to have enough enthusiasm to see it all the way through. You just get to a point where no matter how much you'd like to, you simply can't face it anymore, and I'm right on the edge of that now.
Quand je suis parti à Mexico, j'étais quand même en grande condition. J'avais 27 ans, je pense que c'était aussi l'âge idéal. Le vélo que j'ai tenté le record de l'heure, je voulais qu'il corresponde exactement à mon vélo de route.
Ernesto Colnago est italien. Dans son atelier des environs de Milan se construit la petite reine d'Eddy Merckx. Entendez par là une bicyclette royale qui a été façonnée par l'un des derniers artisans du vélo. Monsieur Colnago est un orfèvre.
Pour vous, qu'est-ce que c'est ce vélo? C'est un bijou.
Moi, c'est la première fois que je fais un vélo comme ça. C'est orgoglioso.
De tous les champions que vous avez connus, je pense que Eddy est le plus méticuleux et le plus technique.
Oui, sicuro. È il più meticoloso, ma anche il più tecnico. È il più conoscitore del mestiere e di tutti i particolari del vélo.
Terry has built frames for me for what is frighteningly now 17 years. If ever I've got any project going where I need prototypes building or anything really specialised, I'll come to Terry. All the different people that we've used bikes with in a professional team, sponsorship, etc. They've always ended up here. Hello, Terence. And one of his greatest assets that I've found over the years is he knows everybody all around the world, and he speaks fluent frame builder.
Remember that one? Hey, for the bars at last Olympics. What's the date on it? April 96. Did you see the way the coffee stains just like a wheel?
Perfect, didn't it? You did that on purpose, didn't you? Do you remember the push button brakes?
It was only work.
You had to have arms like this big to make it work.
Very good, yeah. Yeah, I've done that, haven't you? Stop. Yeah, I've just stopped now. Do you want to have a look at these?
Yeah. I can confirm after this morning that's what we're going for now. The position hasn't changed literally from the start. So we had a little experiment today when things all went
That was like last year's, wasn't it, for the Wales?
That's my standard position for the road in the time trial, and that still holds now.
Terry Dolan is already working on the time trial bike Chris will ride in his last two major competitions, the Olympics and the World Professional Road Championships. Now he has to produce a contemporary edition of a vintage machine.
That's the one, yeah.
Just building it within the rules, and obviously in traditional tubes, he's got to get as close to the position that Eddie makes and the traditional look of the bike as possible. The bike's not the difficult bit, I'd say. Trying to ride faster than Eddie makes would be the difficult thing, and I know Chris appreciates that. That's why he's paying so much attention to the bike, you know. It's like Schumacher, because he's so good, he sets his car up the best as well, because he understands how important them little things are. Yeah.
See you, a couple of days.
The only frustration is when he makes his mind up, because he changes it that often, and you're halfway through something, he goes, oh, we just altered that, and you go, oh, okay. So you just do it again, just go home late. But no, I think he'll do it. But if he goes for it, he'll do it. If he doesn't think he's going to do it, he won't go for it.
Just help yourself, the salad's on the table. Can you help yourself to your cakes and your coffee? We're in a moment. One coffee, Alison.
Is that mine? Yeah.
It is, yes.
Have a coffee, please.
Coffee, please. Any more teas?
Alright, I think it's a bit warm for helmet, do you think? Alright.
Chris's preparations have hit a snag. He needs races to sharpen his form, but his French team Credit Agricole are too busy chasing end-of-season points. So, in search of competition, he's entered a British time trial event.
Morning. Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Boardman.
Morning.
Tell you what, do us a favour, sign out. If I said it was for the kids, I'd be lying. It's for me.
Before you get too busy, could you put 2E in, please?
It hasn't worked out the way I'd like it. I don't think it's even worth pondering. You just get on with what you've got and do the best that you can. And you do with testing the equipment. I mean, this is a £5 worth of brand new bike, and it needs checking out properly.
Yeah. He does love it, you know. I think if he could have just done time trials as a professional, I think he'd have stayed with that.
Great. Did about 50 bar an hour.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And push that.
He's been ready to go for 12 months at least. You know, he's been looking not forward to, but towards that time when he can stop. Sometimes you're not necessarily picking up the pieces, but you can observe the downside, you know, when things are not going too well. We see that, and the general public don't. So yeah, we observe it, and I'm quite happy for him to wind down. Just hope he doesn't pack up riding a bike altogether.
Go, Chris! Go, Chris! Go, Chris!
Ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to get on with the prize presentation. Not appearing in the colours of the Credit Agricole, the new men's national circuit champion, Chris Boardman, North Wirral Velo. of course, wish you every success in Sydney. Bring back a medal again, hopefully a gold medal.
Not unless a steel one.
But it's where it all started back in '92, where I got onto the international stage, and I really would like to finish in a respectable way at the last Olympics, 4 Olympics later. So we'll have to see what happens on Saturday.
You reckon this is it?
I'm not absolutely convinced, Chris.
We're knacked here, aren't we?
Where?
We're knacked.
Straight through, with the cafe on the left?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not only have they not closed the course for us, but they haven't even signed it, so you can't even help yourself.
That's why you just stay up, isn't it? I think that's it. You come down there and up the hill, and you come back down here and round. I'm almost certain that's it.
Right.
Yui.
Yeah.
Then we slipped off to the left.
And then we did that down the one-way bit, round, back under here.
Right then, are we packing it in or what?
Should we just ride back to the start somewhere that way?
That way, innit? I think. Bloody hell, need a compass.
After the disappointment of Sydney, Chris's last professional race will be the time trial at the World Championships. Just as importantly, it's the culmination of 2 months of detailed negotiation between the UCI and his team manager, Roger Leger, over exactly what kind of equipment he can use in his record attempt.
Parce qu'avec le casque, avec l'altitude, avec tout ça, c'est plus du tout les... On peut pas comparer Eddy Merckx non plus. OK. I have the last news now. So
where are we at then with the rules?
The rules.
The frame, they go with what we said.
Yeah, straight, round, 2.5. The wheels, the same size, between 65 to 70.
Right, yeah.
And that is the problem. Comment on dit, jante?
Rims.
Rims. And they said rims flat.
Flat. We give them something so simple and they make it as complicated as possible. But you can say to them, listen, we probably don't have time to make the wheels that you're asking for in 16 days to go. So if you say no to these wheels, you know, what do you propose we do? And ask them the question. It's really getting quite close.
For the Hamlet.
So tell me the news, go on.
The security Hamlet.
Yeah, so like a road helmet.
Like the road Hamlet.
We've measured again and again that the helmet is 20 watts, and that's 1 kilometre. And the reality is now, I haven't got a kilometre to throw away. I just haven't got that. It's going to be that close. Yeah. We have 2 decisions here now. One is we do it the way the UCI want, or 2, we just say, okay, our project, we do it the way we want. That once it's no altitude, and plus the helmet, it gets to the point where it probably wouldn't go past 49.4.
Yes, but
if you're okay with that, I'm okay with that.
It's so important to forget all the hour record we have in the last century. You make a new record, and your UCI is agree with that. It's a new hour record, and it's difficult. And why? It's difficult because the altitude, because the Hamlet, because a lot of things we can compare. And Eddy Merckx agree with that too.
This is good for me because this way we can't lose, and I like that.
Yeah, sure.
If the UCI recognise it or not, it actually doesn't bother me. I'm doing this for myself and for Roger Leger. I've had a fantastic boss through my entire career. I'd really like to leave him with something and just say thanks very much for everything you've done for me.
Hello.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow, Roger. Hello, Sal. It's me. No, it's sort of good actually. It's really good because the UCI and Roger are all for saying this is a new record. This is not Eddy Merckx's. You know, Merckx didn't have to wear this hat. It's a completely different period. We're not doing it at altitude. So basically, the boss had just taken the pressure off having to do 49.4. So that's great. I like that because I was really feeling under the cosh.
Troisième temps, Chris Boardman.
Aujourd'hui, j'ai essayé, c'était un peu mieux qu'à Sydney, mais c'est difficile pour faire quatrième et pour faire arrêt si tu es déjà premier dans cette épreuve. Parce que 5 fois, c'est le podium dans cette année.
avec un retard.
Slipping down the ranks as you approach retirement is nothing unusual, but there's another factor Chris has been keeping quiet about. 2 years ago, his body stopped producing testosterone, a biological reaction to the relentless punishment of his training regime. And without testosterone, he started to develop osteoporosis.
It's very, very unusual to see a young man with osteoporosis of the degree that Chris Boardman had 2 years ago. It would be the equivalent of the spine that we'd see in a lady of 75 to 70.
Free to go now.
The Lord's trochanter hasn't improved as much. You're still osteopenic in the hip. So we've still got a bit to go there. It takes a long time for the bone to get down to this level of thinness, and it takes time for the bone to come back up, but we've got time on our side.
I decided not to talk about it simply because there's nothing that I can do about it at the moment. The treatment would be hormone replacement therapy. We talked to the UCI about this, but I'm not exactly too keen on you going away and taking testosterone, specifically as drugs had just hit cycling really hard in the '98 Tour de France. It caused me to have to make some pretty hard decisions of what I was going to do now. I was going to have to stop and get treatment for this condition, or I simply had to accept the fact that I wasn't doing myself a whole heap of good and continue.
I think it's a major gamble to take the risk of having a severe fracture, to take the risk of the general effects on his health. I think that's a significant risk that a top athlete is taking.
I'm a lot more fragile now than I used to be. I can't support the high volumes and the intense training that gave me the condition to win the big events. So I'm having to be very, very careful and manage things so hopefully I can just pull off 1 or 2 big things before the end.
Chris has 2 final days of testing booked. With just over a week to go, the bike is still a work in progress. And so's he. He's yet to complete a half-hour ride at race speed.
It's just at the point really when you start to panic now, because you have less and less room for manoeuvre if something goes wrong. We need to check the difference between a covered helmet, which is this is mimicking at the moment, as opposed to one that's like vented and totally full of holes. We're hoping there'll be a bit of a difference there, and we can claw back a little bit of what we lost when they says we have to use a full-on safety helmet. And the forks, these were made yesterday and picked up at a clandestine meeting at B&Q last night, 7 o'clock.
How are we doing?
Some stuff that we don't know what it really
Right.
is.
So I just have to work around you then.
Pete's got a lot on his plate. He is the director of all the performance side of British cycling. He's got a World Championships a couple of days away, and he's effectively buggering about with me.
I'm supposed to be in this session. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
The further Peter walks around the track, the further he is up on his schedule, which is 49.5 kilometres. If he can maintain that for another 20 minutes, he's beaten the record by about 200 metres.
8!
At this stage now, it's all down to his condition with a week to go. The bike's 90% there now, so that's it. So as long as Peter keeps walking that way, everything's okay.
1! Go.
Nice one. Only went faster than the schedule, which is always good news, because going slower is never any fun.
That was half of the distance we've got to go. We've got another 100 laps to do, and it just gets harder and harder and harder. The first 10 minutes are almost free, you know, because an awful lot of adrenaline and before the fatigue starts to set in. So I have my free 10 minutes. You don't get one of those in the second half an hour.
Le 21 octobre, 8h52 heure de Mexico, tout est prêt. Le Belge part très vite, trop vite même, 1 km en 1 minute 9 secondes.
J'ai toujours été en avance sur mon tableau de marche, mais je peux vous dire qu'après une demi-heure, la fatigue se fait sentir. L'heure dans laquelle j'ai le plus souffert dans ma vie, parce que avec la force centrifuge, chaque fois rentré dans les virages, il y a quand même un écrasement qui s'opère, des muscles fessiers et tout, donc ça devient vraiment du masochisme, je dirais, pour se faire mal, mais bon, dans un seul espoir, bien sûr, c'est de battre ce record.
In the run-up to the record attempt, Chris has been under pressure from his bike sponsors. As a result, it looks like he'll be riding a machine they've built to Terry Dolan's designs, rather than the one Terry built himself. Before the event, UCI officials will check the bike to make sure it conforms to all their regulations. But with the start time approaching, the UCI themselves seem to be changing the agreed rules.
No one's telling me anything. From bits I can put together, listening in, the UCI are trying to backtrack and say, no, actually, it's the record of Merckx again now. You know. So it is whatever it is. At 5 o'clock, it's not my problem.
The same.
The same. Merci, Roger.
Okay.
Have they signed off on me yet now?
Yeah, I think that's it.
It's like being talking to a policeman. You feel guilty even when you haven't done anything, don't you? All right then, Chris. Hey guys. You alright?
We're all dressed up.
Yeah, great.
Hey Dad, when are you going to start doing that?
See you in an hour and 20 minutes.
An hour?
5 kilometers. Since then, a number of great names of sport.
It's an ice cold alcohol spray. Do not inhale. Oh yes, big people passing out.
Ok, merci. On arrive dans 1 minute.
I think that's your lot.
Yeah, let's get the show on the road.
Ok. Man up.
Hey.
Cheers, mate.
Game on.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but Sally's got in good shape for it.
By Great Britain's very own multi-champion Chris Boardman.
This is definitely the last one.
Chris is riding to a carefully calculated schedule. 1 lap of the 250-metre circuit every 18.2 seconds. He's aiming for a distance of 49.5 kilometres, just 69 metres more than Merckx. With so little margin for error, accurate feedback becomes crucial. And as well as walking the line, Peter Keane will be signalling to him on every lap how many tenths of a second he is up or down on his target of 18.2.
I'm not really watching Chris, I'm just watching Peter. Peter's going the right way, isn't he? So he's doing probably more than he needs to do because he doesn't know what the last 15 minutes is going to hold for him, you know. He's had an upset half an hour before. The UCI decided to change their mind again. If it was designed to upset him, it'll have the opposite effect, I think.
Watch the clock. 21:54. 21:41. 13 seconds off.
I'm 90% sure they made them ride and look like crap when they brought to France, but I can't really see from it. As long as it was designed and it was based on the prototype we made, I haven't got a problem with that. The thing most important is, did he get the record?
Almost halfway. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Do all you can to help Chris on his way. And there is the half distance.
After half an hour, Chris is well up not just on Merckx's schedule, but also on his own carefully calibrated one. At this pace, he'll break the record by over 250 metres.
Now this is where it begins to hurt, ladies and gentlemen. The second half, if it's not hurting already. It's now only 6 seconds. Come on, folks. Help him on here. Help him on.
Concentrate.
47:20. He's only 1 second ahead of schedule. We're right on the wire. Come on, Chris. He's just dropped slightly behind now. Come on, folks.
With 8 minutes of the hour to go, the careful plan constructed by Chris and Peter Keane is close to collapse. He's been slowing down steadily since the half-hour mark, and he's now behind both his own schedule and Merckx's. Sally, who's never come closer to her husband's career than the complimentary seats, can stand it no longer.
He's still 2 seconds behind. Come on! 6 minutes to go. He's going to be so close. Come on! 3.4 seconds down on schedule. Come on! Time's running out.
Come on, you're coming back, come on!
After 28 years and 1 hour, Boardman has beaten Merckx's record by 10 metres.
Lift the leg. Okay. Well done, Chris.
This isn't any better than that. I think the majority of people here thought that was it. And the courage to come back like that and to not die is just unbelievable. That's what the man is all about.
I wanted to say thank you to everybody. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've got a fantastic 10 years. I'm very glad it's finished, and I was very glad to be able to finish here. So thank you, and I'll see you at the bar.
Just happy it's finished. The first time, and there's just nothing going on in my head, and it's great.
Proud moment for both of you, really. It's more relief, I think, that he did it. Or
no, that it's finished.
I ask you for 1 meter, and you do 10. What is it? Hey, it's crazy.
And I think in a sense, in an hour, you've seen everything there is to know about Chris Boardman.